I'm Marc. I have been a human rights educator for approximately 27, 28 years, using the participatory approach for a few more years before that. I also have worked with Equitas since the year 2000, so that's 23 years now. The various approaches that we're referring to in human rights right now, I'd like to just address them all as one group, because my perspective on it is always to go back to the principle of universality of rights. And if we really are looking at realizing that universality and really making sure that everybody has his or her rights respected and has the capacity to realize, to enjoy fully all the rights, we have to consider a number of things. We have to consider where people are, the number of factors that influence their enjoyment of the rights or their inability to enjoy their rights. And so we have to look at things like gender questions and the history of the place where they are, and the racial context and their educational level, the socioeconomic background. So it's great to say that the rights are universal, but in practice, in reality, some people are much more easily able to enjoy all their rights than others because of all these different factors. If a person is living with a disability, for instance, in Canada, it's much easier than a person living with a disability in Cameroon or in a rural area of the Congo or Vietnam. So we have to look at all of these different factors in the work that we do in education, because we can't have a sort of a one-size-fits-all approach. And to me, that's the key in looking at all the intersectionality and all the different questions that we look at, whether it's colonialism, the legacy of colonialism, the racist leftovers from the slavery era, or where we look at disabilities, we look at the person's personal conditions. It's really important to look at all these factors to make sure that we can consider what the best approach is, what the best approach to education is, given a certain particular group that we're working with. So whichever group of factors we're looking at, again, it's taking it back to universality and seeing why certain people are not able to enjoy their rights, all of their rights, and tailoring our educational approach, our content, our methodology to the situation that these people are in. And often it doesn't require a huge amount, but for instance, if we're working in a post-conflict situation, we've got people who've been severely traumatized. We have to expect that at some point somebody will have a reaction that's really unexpected, that we would not necessarily think about, or we would not be able to identify if we were not aware of their context and their history. So there are things that we can do in our education, human rights education activities and programs that take into account, the person's history and person's level of enjoyment of physical ability or living with some disabilities, people having survived severe trauma, people coming from a sexual minority that is highly oppressed in their context. It's just taking into consideration all these things when we develop our programs and when we deliver the educational events.